Oh, we'll try this. YouTube's been kind of leery lately. What is up? Get some people in here and then we'll start doing some shout outs. Oh, I'm gonna need to put my glasses on. I think my eyesight's getting worse. It's the only aspect of my health that's not improving. You're first, Light Bright. What's up, little biking coach? Thomas Wilson. How's it going, little biking coach? Been watching a lot of Thomas DeLore today. Ratman. I must remind you of your grandfather. Was your grandfather a good dude? I hope so. I hate when the sing feed. Just Rick, what's up? Easy and Sons. Quit sunglasses help my eyes. Quit sunglasses help my... I don't wear sunglasses. I got these transitions. Of course, you know, they don't darken inside the vehicle. But for the most part, I don't wear sunglasses. Well, good deal. Charles Anderson, what's up? Good evening to Steve in the group. Large text for your batteries. Thank you, Brent. Always so thoughtful, Brent. Always so thoughtful. So I thought I didn't go live last Saturday. Because I was in Clarksville, Arkansas, and I have absolutely no signal there. And guess what? It's going to happen again this week. So, delivered in Clarksville, and then I went home. Was able to spoil the wife for Mother's Day. But we did have our cat pass away, one of our cats. So it was a good day and a bad day at the same time. And then I went back to work Monday. Now, all but one of my loads is through the same broker this week, and that seems to be the strategy that's working for me. I don't know. It's weird. In some pockets they're lower, but in other pockets they're not. The Midwest that everybody's flocking to seems to be not the go-to place now. So I'm in Oklahoma. Thank you, Light Bright. I appreciate that. There's like 2 rare pictures of me with this cat. This cat, he didn't really trust me. He didn't like me very much. As he got older, he was more like he got kind of used to me and let me pet him and stuff. But he had a bad back for the last 2 years. He couldn't pick him up or nothing. But his liver failed. We don't know why. If it was food related, the other 2 cats would have been affected, but they seem to be okay. So you never know, man. You always hear these recalls on cat food or dog food. You know, like old Roy dog food is always getting somebody in trouble. Trucker's Life, what's up? But I'm in Oklahoma. I've been running actually I've been running the Midwest except for this load. I picked this up in Columbus. Deliver tomorrow morning, then I pick up tomorrow morning going back to Missouri, and then from there I'll go back to Arkansas, and then I'll go from Arkansas to Oklahoma. And I'm getting good rates. I'm getting decent rates. One of the advantages of having a broker that you use is, you can tell them what you've done the load for in the past. They could tell you, like every single load I'm doing is a load that I've done before. So I know the ins and outs. I know where I need to be. I know what appointments, if I can go in early, that kind of thing. And that kind of stuff really gives the advantage versus the unknown, where you're not sure where you're going, or you're not sure if they're going to load you early or not load you early, you know, that kind of thing. Or if a certain customer has a tendency to cancel. You know, that was always the thing at Schneider, is you would see certain loads on the load board and you would say, well, you know, that those tend to cancel, or, you know, you got to be real careful with the relays that were coming off the yards, you know. So Clyde, what's up? I've been doing okay, Clyde. White Pines, Tennessee. Knowledge is a great source of power in business relationship. It is, you know, and it's not like you know, someone used the term using this broker like a crutch, and I don't see it that way. People have told me in the past that if you do a load for a broker for the first time, see if you can do 2 more loads for them in a row. And you know, and we have that. I mean, Jeff's not in here, but if he was, he could tell us probably, I think we're up to like 200 brokers that we've worked with. And he fills out carrier packets every day. And this particular broker has been keeping me running. I mean, this stringing the load, fairly decent week. Now, granted, I worked until Saturday night last week and deadheaded 200 miles home. But for the rate that I got the load going into Arkansas and the rate that I got for the load coming out of Missouri back to Ohio, that deadhead really didn't hurt me. You know, you have to look at a deadhead. You have to look at deadhead a certain way. And you know, a lot of people are, you know, Big Rich was talking about this a few minutes ago. A lot of people are hung up on rate per mile. You got to know your rate per mile. You got to know your rate per day. And the easiest way is to look at how many days a month you want to work. If you want off every weekend, that's 20 days in the month. And one of the things that I do, and I've talked about this before, but I've got my load planner thing, right? Or not load planner, but calendar, you know, weekly planner. And I keep tabs, you know, for my per diem. You know, I've marked which days that I'm driving, which days are half, you know, those days I made at home, and which days I was off. And then at the end of the month, I'll average everything out by the week. You know, how many miles did I do each week? What was my rate per mile average that week? You know, it gives you the big picture, and too many people are hung up on 1 or 2 loads. And those of you who are doing well at Schneider, you know you can't do that, because you might do a load that pays, you know, $2.30 a mile, and then the next load you might pay $1.10. And then at the end of the week, you see what your average is, and as long as that average is above what you need or right at what you need, you're good to go. And there are guys averaging $1.50 to $1.80 a mile with $4,000 a month truck payments over there. So it can be done. And the key is consistency and looking at the bigger picture. Now, I'm not a business expert, and there are times when I feel like I'm on a thin thread. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, how would I handle if the turbo went out in this truck? How would I handle it if I had the DEF system go down? And would I replace this truck if it need be, or would I just get out of the game? And I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. It just depends. It probably just depends on my mood that day. You know, logic would say we'll get a brand new truck, but then I don't want to be locked into something for the next 5 years. But then other logic would say we'll get another $60,000 truck with a warranty, and you'll be good. The market is going to start exploding here. I'm already seeing MHC had these really nice 680s for 2018 680s that were, a whole fleet was given up. They were red and gray trucks, I believe. You know, and I've already we've already seen a lot of people, especially in the YouTube universe, get out of the market or get out of the owner operator space. And I think at the end of the day, is it worth the sacrifice? Is it worth being away from your family? And some people have said no, it's not. Me, I'm trying to find a happy medium where I can still do this job, still make a little bit of money, yet be home when my family needs me. I kind of had an idea that the cat was going to go, so I decided that, you know what, instead of like waiting around a full day hoping I'll get a load coming out Monday out of the area or Sunday, I just went ahead and went home. And I had booked my get out of the house load before I went home, so I wasn't, you want to try to avoid deadheading blindly. If one time I was in Evansville, Indiana, and I just wasn't finding anything. And at one point, I started looking for 200 miles out for the next day. And sure enough, I found something out of St. Louis, so I deadheaded to St. Louis. The rate worked for me. And it was like $50 in fuel maybe. And, I already lost the day. My clock was already dwindling down and nothing on the board was either paying or it just, the times didn't work. So I found myself, but I didn't just like deadhead to St. Louis and then look for a load. You don't want to do that, in my opinion. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm not the most market savvy guru, but I do know that consistency has worked for me. And it's not like I'm giving this broker free reign. I'm still looking at the DAT. I'm still looking at 123. I'm still looking at the other boards, I guess. And it's not like this guy is dispatching me, but he is an extra set of eyes for their loads, and it's worked out really well for me. It's worked out well for Like Trucking, actually. We are keeping this guy busy, and he's hooking us up. So it's that's what it's all about. Big Rich talked about this, and it was a smart comment about when everybody was doing the $3.50, $4 a mile stuff a year and a half ago. A lot of carriers, the smart carriers, Snyder included, went in and said, hey, you know what, we can do your stuff for a lot less, but we want to sign a contract so you're not paying these spikes. And so they sacrificed a little bit of money then, but now they're making more than what the spot market is providing. And so what is that? What is that? That's consistency. And that's the key. That's the key to everything. Whether you're contract, drop and hook, spot market, specialized, any of that. It's all about consistency. And because what consistent about cash flow? That was the difference. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and he asked me if I had to go back to Landstar, or if I had to leave Like Trucking, and I had to choose between Landstar and Snyder, which would I choose? And I told him, it was kind of up in the air because Landstar had a couple of advantages and Snyder had a couple of advantages. And with me having my own trailer, that makes it a lot better in the Landstar world. But the thing that would set me apart from the last Landstar experience is I know a lot more now than I did back then. I approach my business now differently than I did back then. Back then I was winging it. I was struggling and I was winging it. And that's it's a miracle, a little bit of luck that I've made it this far, where I made it to Snyder. And then once I got Snyder, then I started networking with the right people, and Jeffrey Like included, and I found myself thinking differently. You go through a paradigm shift. You know, Big Rich was also talking about that, about a paradigm shift. And you start to think differently. You start to go from a trucker that is paying the bills to, okay, now, you know, it finally entered my head that I was a business owner. Even though people have been hammering this, you know, over and over. And I don't know, there's a part of me that has some ADHD thing going on, or, you know, I don't listen, you know, just ask my wife. And certain way, and then you're not listening to outside information. Eventually you start listening to outside information, and you have these little epiphanies, aha moments, and you're like, you know, wow, okay. And then every now and then I take a step back and I'll test myself. I'll ask these people that do have their act together, and I'll be like, hey, you know, I did this and this and this. What do you think of that? Oh, that was a good idea. Or you're doing it right. Or that's definitely the step in the right direction. And these are people that are doing well out here despite the conditions. I have a bad signal, getting buffering out, sync audio, going to jump out. Everyone have a good evening and drive safe. All right, Brent. Deadhead miles must be added to paid miles to figure a correct payment per mile. Trucker's Life, yeah, and that's what Snyder did for you automatically. And whenever I write everything down, you know, most brokers, part of the strategies that you see, most brokers don't care about your deadhead miles because that's not their problem, right? However, if they call you, needing you, that's when you can throw in some deadhead mileage, right? That's when you say, well, I'm 100 miles out, and, you know, if I'm the only truck you got, you know, so much per mile, you know, tack that on, right? But with the truck load ratio, that's hard to do right now. So when you call on a load, and let's say it's a 200 mile deadhead, they're only going to give you a rate for the you know, the loaded miles, because that's all they got to cover. It's not their fault that you're 200 miles out. Now, if they call you, it's a different story. Now, you can try, you can sit there, well, you know, it's a little bit of deadhead for me, but I'm willing to help you out for X amount, blah, blah, blah. You know, and there's always this controversy how much the brokers are keeping. You know, they're keeping this huge amount, right? The problem with that line of thinking is that if they know that your costs are $1.26 a mile and you're asking for $2.50, they don't see why you would ask for $2.50, right? But the other part of that is if they're not willing to give up the money, they're not going to give up the money. If they want to keep 50%, they're not going to give it to you. You could sit there and kick and scream and beg and be the nicest person and be the meanest person. But once you hear those words, that's all I got in it. That is a line that says, you know what? I have put this line here and we're not going past it. This guy is walking his cat on a leash. I don't know if you can get this or not. Can you guys see that? That's a cat he's walking. That black cat, that's a black cat. Very rarely do you see a cat walk on a leash. See something new every day. That's what I like about this job, right? And if the broker doesn't have any more money in that, then you're not going to get more money out of them that way. So that is, you know, so it doesn't matter what the broker's making. In a way, you want them to profit, because if they're profiting, enough, they can keep that customer and keep paying drivers well. But if they're taking too much off the top, guess what? They're going to get underbid at some point. The shipper's going to get wind that the drivers aren't getting the money, and so the shipper's going to be upset about it. So they're slicing their own throats when they do that kind of stuff. So the brokers that don't have the right mindset, kind of slice their own throats, just like the drivers. Most brokers will try to keep you pulling their freight if they can count on you. Right, and that's the thing, guys. These guys, you have some brokers that want a new driver. They want the new authorities, because they want to get it the cheapest that they can get. But then there are other brokers that want the reliability. They want the people that do the check calls. They want to, they want to know that they can book the loan and not worry about it. And so it pays to really do your check calls, and once you get that reputation, man, you're golden. And we'll put some light here so you can see my ugly face. There we go. That's perfect. And that reliability goes a long way. And then, next thing you know, you're seeing loads that other people can't. Next thing you know, loads are hitting your phone or your email before it's on the load boards. And that gives you advantage. And that was one of the things that I never got to at Landstar was there were some agents that would call me, but then they kept losing their freight. So, but the best loads at Landstar aren't on the load board. I agree with you, Trucker's Life. You're not an expert? I'm out of here. I'm not Little White Coach. You're here for antics. If he is given what you need for the amount then you need, it's all good. Charles Brandt, what's up? There, little dog. I'm honored that you're in here. You have the advantage, they call you and you have a better chance to get more money. Right. And little dog can probably attest to that the best loads usually don't hit the load boards. So, so that they're, so like I said, I'm just passing time. I thought I'd go live because I didn't go live Saturday night, and I know some people want to go to sleep, so it's kind of early for Little Dog's bedtime though. So there's that. Oh, that's funny. Next Sam, what's up? Did I say hi to you? Geeks Trucking, how you been? I've been doing all right, man. I've been doing all right. Princess Prissy Pants, what's up? Let's see what else is going on. Been kind of keep an eye on things with all the YouTube antics, as Yukon put it, and I've learned that Hensley's phone calls really brings out, I'm gonna call Hensley out on this, okay? These phone calls with Hensley are very revealing about people. Hensley gets the truth out. I give him props for that. It really shows the true sides of these people that talk to him on the phone. And it's sad that you have these friendships and business relationships that have fallen apart. And it seems like Hensley's the one that they all tell the truth to. And to watch this as an outsider, it just, I don't know, you think about how one person is, and then you find out that they're another. And it appears to me that nobody is safe. As far as like, you got to be careful who your friends are, I guess. Who you go in business with. I mean, honesty, integrity. People that they called friends or business associates are now being trash talk, and Hensley's getting the earful, and And, so the truth comes out. Kind of puts everything in perspective when it comes to what's going on in the YouTube universe today. It's all about customer service. You deliver on time, keep them posted through the trip. Yes, Charles, I had brokers call me and say, wow, you do check calls. No one does that. And then I once read a thing on Facebook where this guy was like, oh, if I'm doing your load and it's cheap, I don't give you check calls. I don't, you give me a crap rate, I'm going to give you crap service. And I'm just like, that is the most asinine thing I think I've ever heard. How would you feel that if you hired a roofer for your house and because he's not happy with what you're paying him, he's going to do a shoddy job, right? That's not going to fly. And would you use that roofer again? No. And then next thing you know, word of mouth says, hey, don't use this roofer. He works cheap, but he's going to grumble about it and do a crappy job. Alan McQuett, what's up? Watch who you talk to. I agree. I had agents request me a lot of times. Yeah, and what I find in my circle of friends that are doing well in the spot market, and not even in the spot market, but in their trucking universe per se, are, they all have the same thing in common. They have business relationships where they're not fighting for the scraps on the load boards, and at some point at the 3 o'clock shuffle doesn't exist anymore. And I mean, at least as far as I've seen it, if I'm wrong, prove me wrong. But the 3 o'clock shuffle is also hard to do when your clock's already started. The E-log killed the 3 o'clock shuffle. It really did. If you were on paper, you might deliver at 9 a.m. and then wait till 4 p.m. when a broker needed an overnight run done, and you could pull it off. Unfortunately, I never had I never did work the spot market on paper. I've been on paper. When I first started trucking, I was on paper, and my trainer, he taught me well how to use paper. And e-logs are a love and hate relationship, and I'll be curious to see what the new hours of service are going to be, which I believe is June 6th or June 7th is when they're going to announce it. Do I got that right? Right. You take a hit, truckers table life. You take a hit there, and it's where you're constantly taking a hit. That's where you have a problem. Big Houston, what's up? You got your first request to drive for a company. There's a guy walking his cat. Dog who's not on a leash. But that's a cat. He's yelling at the dog though. Guys, I was next to a grain hauler the other day. We had this German Shepherd. And he was practically almost beating that dog. You could tell the dog was real head shy. Really made me sad. And he had the passenger seat of his truck taken out. So the dog had quite a bit of room. But you just tell this guy was just angry. It's like, why? If the dog stresses you out because it inconveniences you, why have a dog? You know what I mean? You're supposed to have a dog on the truck to be a friend, not a child to scold. And that's kind of what he was It's like, yeah, okay, I get it. You train a dog, but you don't train a dog with a heavy hand. I'm sorry, you don't. You want to show it who's boss, but at the same time, you don't have to do that with force. Get the dog's respect. Couldn't take it. It was in California, and I was in Oklahoma City. But if there's anything else you guys want to talk about, we got some low numbers tonight, which is fine. YouTube's been kind of screwy here lately. Analytics are all thrown off. And, you know, and I am kind of boring, so that works. Trust and pack leader is all you need with dogs. Right, well, it's kind of all you need in life, really. You know, lead, follow, or get out of the way. You know, and there's a positive way to motivate people, and there's a negative way to motivate people. Animals are no different. You have to be careful who you go into business with. And you have to hope that you can trust them. And, you know, and help you out of a jam if you need it, you know. The market's not easy right now, but, you know, the statistics show that it's really not that bad. So it's all perception, too. A lot of us here at Like Trucking, we've made moves to lower our expenses, and that's really helped us, all of us. You know, Roscoe talked about it in his live feed Wednesday. And I've made a few changes, and I've got everything broken down to the very triple hundredth of a cent. But I'm not like fixated on just that cost per mile. And the trends, according to my notebook, is showing a little bit of an upward trend. So either that or I'm getting more efficient. I think it's a both. You know, I wasn't very efficient. The way I was, I'll be honest with you guys. I was not running my truck efficiently. I wasn't doing it Landstar, and at Schneider it was easy to only worry about the 200 or 300 mile loads that were open, drop, and hook. So very rarely was I under a time crunch. So jumping back in the spot market again, I had to learn to be efficient, and I wasn't. I was too many gaps, and that was my problem at Landstar. I was not. If I was a fleet owner and I had a company driver ran like the way I was running myself, that driver would quit or I would go out of business. And that's something that you got to kind of look at yourself for, you know. And I realized that I was not being efficient. And Harold is really good at being efficient. I mean, he milks every minute that he can throughout the day. And I'm not quite to his level, but he has to hustle a little bit more than I do because the costs are a little bit higher. So it's a skill set that he's developed from his Schneider Finance days. And that's one of the things, you know, people can talk down to Schneider Finance people at times, but the ones that do well at Schneider, they have learned how to become the most efficient that they could possibly be. And the ones that don't, that's where those expenses get you. And I'll be the first to admit that when your expenses are fairly low, guess what? You're not interested in efficiency. You're interested in doing what's easy. You're interested in doing what you've done before. You're interested in staying in a certain area. And, you know, and with those low costs, you have that luxury. But at some point, you can underperform to the point that your business falters. It's kind of like if you own a brick and mortar store and like, well, you know, I set my hours from 8 to 4, but I'll just go in at 9:30. It's not a big deal. Or I'm going to leave early today at 3. You know, and eventually after a month of that, guess what? You've lost potential revenue. Well, trucking's no different. and I was not being efficient. And a lot of people said that the reason why Falcon went out of business, one of the reasons, was that they weren't very efficient. They relied on that contract through the automotive accounts, and they didn't have to be efficient. You know, just like I didn't have to be efficient at Schneider. And as long as I was making a certain amount at Schneider, I was good. You know, and it paid my bills. I was able to save up money, and unfortunately, though, at the beginning of the last 2 years of having this truck, I've had a major repair. And right now, my repairs are at 17 cents a mile thus far. So if you add my truck payment and my repairs and divide them by the month and add that, you know, add it all together, I'm at a new truck payment. You know, not quite to the level the Peterbilt was, but we're getting up there. And then the truck's got 550,000 miles on it. Just lie to me and tell you things are picking up. Well, you know, it depends on where you go. I mean, the volumes in the Southeast are really good, but the rates are still like iffy, you know. Pretty soon watermelons are going to start rotting, and they're going to have to start putting some money on them. What am I running? For the most part, I'm running up and down 70 in between, you know, Kansas City and Columbus, Ohio. I primarily run Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Texas. Not Texas as much, but Oklahoma, Arkansas. And the only reason why I find myself in Arkansas and Oklahoma is because I know how to get out. And, you know, I ran into an Advanced, you know, that their company, one of their drivers, and he asked me about Oklahoma, and I said, well, you got to have a plan going in. You know, you don't want to book blindly. And I was really bad about that. I just like, well, you know, I got a load going to Oklahoma City, and then like not have any clue of what I'm getting out. And several people have yelled at me for that. You're right about heavy haul and oversized. Anthony T, what's up? Southbound J. I bet you can. My Peterbilt had a fish smell too. Let's see. Michael Dow, what's up? But it's a learning process, you know, and if you know, if you get burned out and go back to being a company, it's not a big deal. You know, I've got 3 companies that would hire me in a minute if I ever had to go that route again. But I like the freedom that I have. Sometimes it doesn't feel like freedom. There's a lot more work, a lot more mental stress. Yeah. But in the end, I think I'd be more stressed that if my dispatcher said I had to do 600 miles by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, I wasn't sure how I was going to make it work. I think that would stress me out even more. At least here I got to be able to dispatch yourself. But if you've never dispatched yourself, and you're thinking about coming out to the spot market, you really need to have some money saved up, because there's going to be a learning curve. Because you're a load planner, dispatcher, all in one. And if you've never self-dispatched before, it can be a challenge. So you got to keep that in mind. If you're wanting to come out here or go to Schneider or Landstar and dispatch yourself, you're going to want some wiggle room for those errors. You're going to want some wiggle room for when you make mistakes. Notice I didn't say if, I said when. Because things on the Raycon that says they're going to fine you $150, $200, $300 if you're late. rescheduling fees. You know, and if you got like a load going to Dollar General or Walmart, someplace like that, and you show up 2 hours late, guess what? You're being rescheduled, and that reschedule might take 2 or 3 or 4 days. There was a time at Landstar where another Landstar driver and I picked up at the same place. He beat me there by an hour. Of course, my appointment time was an hour later than his appointment time, right? Well, it turns out we had the same delivery number. And so, since he was there first, he got that delivery number, and I was stuck out in the cold. I had to sit on that load for 3 days. I lost my butt. And on top of that, I had to be home for a gig. So, you never know. I mean, you want to confirm your times and all that, but, you know, and then you got carriers out here that will, you know, I experienced it firsthand when I was working as company driver. A lot of these carriers, you know, are trying to get a driver home, or they're doing the 3 o'clock shuffle. But what they'll do is they'll call and say, "Hey, yeah, we can make that delivery time." And then when they'll pick up the load, then once they figure out, well, shoot, we can't play dumb, and eventually that will bite you in the butt. You'll get a bad reputation for that. So, you know, so you definitely don't want to do that. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. There you go. You're so right. Freedom is everything. I hate being back as company driver, but we'll be an independent again soon. Well, good deal, Michael Down. Good luck. Yeah, last year was the year to cut your teeth on the spot market. Well, but here's something that you got to think of, okay? If you can thrive in the current market, this market's going to teach you how to be efficient. This market's going to teach you how to manage your expenses, and this market's going to teach you how to create relationships. You do that when it's rough, then when it's golden, you're good to go. And that's the advantage. You know, Trucker Review Channel talked about that. You know, he said he came out during a recession. And I think that's the best time to learn, because if you can make it work now, then, you know, when things do go back in our favor, you can afford, you can afford to do things a little bit differently. And, you know, high truck payments, and I don't know how I would do with the $35,000 or $4,000 a month truck payment. I really don't, because I've never had to do that. There was a time where I almost took a Snyder Finance truck. They were kind of giving me the runaround. They weren't communicating very well. So I got this truck instead. And I'm so glad I did. You know, and I talked to Jeff about that at that time. He's like, well, it's going to teach you how to run differently, because he knew how I ran. He knew what I was looking for. And I've never had to deal with this kind of market with the $4,000 a month truck payment. Now, in a way, you know, if you look at my repairs, I still have a high truck payment if you add that in the equation. But, you know, the problem with that is I'm not running like I have a $4,000 truck payment. So, again, you know, it's all about skill set. And for the people that are making it work with the high truck payments, kudos to you, because I don't even know if I could do that. You know, I'll admit my faults. I'll admit my weaknesses. You know, I am not like I said, I'm not an expert, like Little Viking Coach has pointed out. I'm going to get off here. I thought I'd just kill some time. I believe I got a phone call earlier, so I need to see what that's about. I believe it's family related. So, family first, right? Family first. There's nothing wrong with making changes for your family. In the end, isn't that what we all do this for? But, you know, because You can have the best truck, right? You can work for the best company, and you can have fun going up and down this road, right? But in the end, you know, what do you got left? When you're on your deathbed, you know, what do you want around you? You want your family, right? And to me, that's the most important. You know, if my family required me to be home all the time, there's a for sale sign going up on this truck. Hopefully we'll never have to get to that. But eventually, you know, who knows? We'll see, right? That's a good lease payment there at Geeks Trucking. Very good, very good. All right, guys, have a good hang. You know, Agent Owner says it was cool to hang out for a minute tonight. Be good, right? And I hope you guys are asleep. So for those of you guys that were bored to death or bored to sleep, wake up! See you guys later.